Life is always going to test you. Some seasons bring gentle rains and others bring hurricanes. And in those hurricane seasons, you discover what you're really made of. Those are the times when your philosophy of life gets tested and refined in the fire of adversity. I want to share something profound with you. Your life is like a building under construction, and difficulty is simply part of the construction process. You wouldn't look at a half-built skyscraper and say, what a disaster. You'd say, it's not finished yet. And neither are you. The challenges you face today are shaping the person you'll become tomorrow. When I was a young man, I had a mentor who changed my life. He asked me a simple question that I've never forgotten. He said, Jim, do you want your life to get better? I said, of course. And he replied, then you have to get better. Your life gets better when you get better. That's the first principle I want to share with you about staying positive in tough times. Focus on personal growth, not circumstances. When you're growing, improving, and developing yourself, you generate a kind of internal optimism that circumstances can't destroy. See, most people spend their energy wishing for better circumstances. They say, if only I had more money, if only I had better health, if only I had different parents, if only I lived in a different neighborhood. But successful people understand that circumstances don't determine destiny, personal development does. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this happening for? What can I learn? How can I grow? How can I use this challenge to become better than I was before? I've found that life will pay any price you ask of it. If you ask for the minimum, that's what you'll get. If you settle for a little, life will give you just a little. But if you ask for prosperity, if you commit to excellence, if you demand growth from yourself regardless of circumstances, life will eventually reward that commitment. Now, let me share another crucial principle for staying positive. Guard your mind like a precious garden. What you allow into your mind determines what grows there. And what grows in your mind determines your outlook on life. Most people don't realize how much negative input they receive every single day. The news, conversations with pessimistic friends, social media, it's a constant barrage. And if you don't deliberately choose what influences you, the world will choose for you. And the world, my friends, is not invested in your positivity. I made a decision years ago that I was going to feed my mind with positive, constructive, uplifting information. I started reading good books, listening to educational content, having conversations with successful people, and it changed everything for me. There's a wonderful quote that says, you will be the same person 5 years from now that you are today, except for the books you read and the people you meet. Isn't that powerful? Your mind is shaped by what you feed it. So here's my suggestion. Start a systematic program of feeding your mind with positive input. Read at least 30 minutes every day. Listen to educational content in your car instead of the news. Surround yourself with people who lift you up rather than drag you down. I promise you, if you do this consistently for 90 days, you'll hardly recognize your old thought patterns. Your natural response to difficulty will shift from why me to try me, from I can't handle this to let's see what I can learn from this. That's the power of guarding and cultivating your mind. Let me tell you about a friend of mine who lost everything in the recession of the early 1980s. His business collapsed. He lost his home. His marriage fell apart. It was one of those perfect storms of difficulty that can either break you or remake you. I remember visiting him during this period, expecting to find a broken man. Instead, I found him sitting at his kitchen table, now in a small apartment, with books spread out all around him. He looked up at me and said, Jim, I've decided that while I can't control the economy, I can control what I learn. I'm going to use this time to become more valuable than I've ever been before. 2 years later, he had built a business twice the size of his previous one. When I asked him how he did it, he said, the key was deciding that my difficulties were not the end of my story. They were simply a plot twist in a greater narrative. That's what I want for you, to see your current challenges as plot twists, not conclusions. Now, let me share another principle that's been invaluable to me. Develop the habit of gratitude. Gratitude is the antidote to negativity. You cannot be grateful and negative at the same time. It's psychologically impossible. Most people don't realize that gratitude is a discipline before it's a feeling. You don't wait until everything's perfect to be grateful. You choose gratitude as a daily practice regardless of circumstances. I started a gratitude journal years ago. Every morning I write down 5 things I'm grateful for. Some days when life is particularly challenging, I might write, I'm grateful I can see. I'm grateful I can walk. I'm grateful for clean water. Other days I list bigger blessings. But the discipline of finding things to be grateful for trains your mind to look for the positive. Did you know that your brain has a filtering system called the reticular activating system? It's designed to filter out the majority of information around you and only let in what you've programmed it to notice. When you practice gratitude, you're programming your brain to notice more things to be grateful for. And suddenly your world seems more abundant even in the midst of challenges. I've counseled many people going through difficult times, and I always ask them, tell me something good in your life right now. Sometimes they struggle to answer, but with a little prompting they begin to recognize blessings they've overlooked. And that simple shift in focus can be the beginning of a new perspective. You see, most people miss the extraordinary in their ordinary days. They're so focused on what's wrong that they miss what's right. They're so consumed with what they lack that they miss what they have. Don't let that be you. I believe there's a kind of magic that happens when you choose gratitude in difficult seasons. It opens your eyes to possibilities you might otherwise miss. It keeps your heart soft when circumstances might make it hard. It connects you to hope when despair is knocking at your door. Another key principle for staying positive is understanding the power of your words. What you say matters not just to others, but to yourself. Your words shape your reality more than you might realize. I've observed that chronically negative people almost always have negative language patterns. They say things like, with my luck, this won't work out, or I knew this would happen to me, or nothing ever goes my way. And those words become self-fulfilling prophecies. Successful people, on the other hand, are very intentional about their language. They say things like, I'll figure this out, this is difficult but not impossible, I'm learning and growing through this challenge. Their words create a framework for positive outcomes. Your words are like seeds, they determine what grows in the garden of your life. Plant words of hope, determination, and possibility and watch what happens, even in the rockiest soil of difficult circumstances. I recommend that people actually script positive declarations and speak them aloud daily. Not wishful thinking or denial of reality, but powerful truths that remind you of your capacity to overcome. Statements like, I am resourceful and creative, I find solutions to difficult problems, I grow stronger through challenges. Speaking these truths reshapes your internal dialogue. You know, I've had the privilege of meeting many successful people over the years, entrepreneurs, leaders, innovators, and one thing I've noticed is that they all face significant obstacles on their journey. But their language never surrendered to those obstacles. They spoke about problems as temporary, challenges as opportunities, failures as education. I remember talking with a woman who had lost her job during a company downsizing. She told me, I don't say I was fired or laid off, I say I was released to pursue my next opportunity. That's the power of choosing your words carefully. Now let's talk about another vital principle, the power of association. Who you spend time with has an enormous impact on how you respond to life's difficulties. I often tell people you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Their attitudes, their perspectives, their responses to challenges, all of it rubs off on you. This isn't just philosophy, it's been proven by social scientists. Your environment shapes you far more than most people realize. When life gets tough, you need to be especially careful about your associations. Some people will pull you down into negativity. Others will challenge you to rise above your circumstances. Choose wisely. I suggest conducting what I call an association audit. Make a list of the people you spend the most time with. Then honestly assess, after I spend time with this person, do I feel better or worse? More hopeful or more discouraged? More motivated or more complacent? The answers will tell you a lot. Now, I'm not suggesting you cut people out of your life who are going through difficulties. That's not the point. The question is, do they approach their difficulties with a productive mindset or a destructive one? Are they working on solutions or just complaining about problems? I've deliberately sought out mentors and friends who have overcome significant challenges. There's something powerful about spending time with someone who has walked through fire and come out refined rather than destroyed. Their perspective is invaluable. One of my mentors used to say, Jim, if you want to soar with eagles, you can't scratch with turkeys. That's always stayed with me. Your aspirations should determine your associations. I also believe in the power of expanded association through books, audio programs, and courses. When you read an autobiography of someone who overcame tremendous odds, you're associating with their mindset. When you listen to teachings from positive, successful people, you're expanding your circle of influence. Let me share another crucial principle, the discipline of goal setting even in difficult seasons. Most people abandon their goals when life gets tough, but that's exactly when you need them most. Goals give you direction when the path seems unclear. They provide motivation when circumstances are demotivating. They offer a sense of control when life feels chaotic. I recommend setting both long-term and short-term goals. Your long-term goals are like the North Star. They guide your journey even when the terrain gets rough. Your short-term goals give you wins along the way, building your confidence and momentum. During particularly challenging seasons, you might need to adjust your pace, but never abandon your direction. Maybe you can't take leaps, but you can still take steps. Maybe you can't run, but you can still walk. The key is continued movement toward what matters most to you. I remember a season in my own life when everything seemed to be falling apart. My business was struggling, I had health challenges, and I felt completely overwhelmed. During that time, I simplified my goals. Instead of trying to conquer all the world, I focused on 3 small wins each day. I would write down 3 things I needed to accomplish, and I made sure they moved me toward my larger goals, even if just incrementally. Some days, those 3 things were as simple as making important phone calls or reading a chapter in a growth-oriented book. But those small daily wins kept me moving forward when I could have easily given up. That's the power of goals during difficult times. They keep you future-focused rather than problem-focused. They give purpose to your present struggles. They remind you that your current circumstances are not your final destination. Now, let me share another principle that's been transformative in my life, the philosophy of adding value to others. When life gets tough, there's a natural tendency to become self-absorbed. Our problems loom large, and our focus narrows to our own difficulties. But I've discovered that one of the most powerful ways to maintain positivity during challenging times is to shift your focus from what you're going through to what you can give to others. There's something almost magical that happens when you decide to serve, to contribute, to add value, even in the midst of your own struggles. It activates a different part of your psychology. You move from victim to contributor, from receiver to giver, from helpless to helpful. I've seen people transformed by this simple shift. A woman who lost her child started a support group for grieving parents. A man who lost his job began volunteering to help others with career transitions. A family facing financial hardship started looking for small ways to help neighbors in need. In each case, the act of adding value to others didn't eliminate their own challenges, but it dramatically changed how they experienced those challenges. It gave meaning to their suffering, it provided perspective, it connected them to a purpose bigger than their problems. I challenge you to ask yourself, even in my current difficulties, how can I add value to someone else today? Maybe it's offering encouragement, sharing knowledge, providing practical help, or simply giving your full attention to someone who needs it. This philosophy is not just good for your psychology, it's good for your future. The universe has a way of rewarding those who focus on contribution. When you're dedicated to adding value, opportunities tend to find you. Doors open, resources appear, not always immediately, but consistently over time. I firmly believe that income follows service. Money responds to value. Prosperity is attracted to those who are more concerned with what they can give than what they can get. So when life gets tough, don't withdraw, reach out. Don't isolate, connect. Don't focus solely on your needs. Look for ways to meet the needs of others. This is a powerful antidote to negativity and self-pity. Let me share another principle that's been invaluable to me, the discipline of physical well-being. Many people don't realize how significantly their physical state affects their mental and emotional resilience. When life gets tough, the first things that often go out the window are healthy habits, proper sleep, good nutrition, regular exercise, adequate ration. Yet these are the very practices that strengthen your capacity to handle stress and maintain a positive outlook. I've learned that taking care of my physical body is not separate from my mental and emotional well-being, it's foundational to it. When I'm physically depleted, challenges seem more overwhelming. When I'm physically strong, the same challenges seem more manageable. I recommend establishing simple, non-negotiable routines to maintain your physical well-being, especially during difficult seasons. Perhaps it's a morning walk, a nutritious breakfast, 8 hours of sleep, or drinking enough water. These basics may seem trivial compared to the big challenges you're facing, but they provide the foundation of energy and clarity you need to respond effectively. I remember a period when I was working incredibly long hours trying to turn around a struggling business. I was skipping meals, sleeping little, emitting on coffee. My mentor pulled me aside and said, "Jim, you can't solve complex problems with a depleted mind and body. Your physical discipline right now is as important as your business discipline." He was right. When I recommitted to basic self-care, my creativity returned, my patience increased, my decision-making improved. The challenges hadn't changed, but my capacity to meet them had. So don't neglect the basics. Your body is the vehicle through which you'll overcome your challenges. Keep it fueled, rested, and strong. Now, let me share an often overlooked principle for staying positive, the practice of strategic solitude. In our connected, busy world, many people never experience the clarity and renewal that comes from intentional time alone. I've found that regular periods of solitude, time specifically set aside for reflection, planning, and rejuvenation, are essential for maintaining perspective during difficult seasons. This isn't about isolation or escape, it's about creating space to process your experiences and realign with your values and vision. My own practice includes an hour of solitude each morning before the day begins and a longer period each weekend. During these times, I reflect on what's working and what isn't. I reconnect with my purpose and priorities. I process emotions that I might otherwise suppress in the busyness of life. This practice has saved me from making reactive decisions during challenging times. It's helped me distinguish between problems that need immediate attention and those that will resolve themselves. It's given me the emotional and mental space to respond rather than react. I encourage you to build some form of strategic solitude into your life. It might be a daily walk without your phone, a weekly visit to a peaceful place, or simply a quiet hour before everyone else is awake. The format matters less than the consistency. Many of the people I've counseled through difficult times tell me their breakthrough moments came during periods of solitude. Moments when the noise of life subsided enough for them to hear their own wisdom and connect with deeper sources of guidance. Another vital principle I want to share with you is what I call mastering the fundamentals. When life gets challenging, there's a tendency to look for complex solutions or dramatic changes. But I've found that returning to fundamentals is often the most powerful approach. In business, the fundamentals might be excellent customer service, quality products, and careful financial management. In relationships, they might be honest communication, consistent presence, and genuine appreciation. In personal development, they might be continuous learning, disciplined habits, and clear priorities. No matter what challenges you're facing, there are fundamental practices that create stability and progress. Identifying and recommitting to these fundamentals can be transformative during difficult seasons. I worked with an entrepreneur whose business was failing despite his frantic efforts to save it. When we analyzed the situation, we discovered he had gradually drifted away from the fundamentals that made his business successful in the first place. He was chasing new opportunities while neglecting his core customers. He was cutting corners on quality to save costs. He had stopped the personal touches that had built his reputation. Once he recommitted to these fundamentals, his business not only stabilized but eventually thrived beyond its previous peak. The solution wasn't complex innovation, it was returning to proven principles. The same is true in your personal life. When challenges arise, ask yourself, what fundamental practices have served me well in the past? Have I drifted from any of them? What basics do I need to recommit to? Often the way forward isn't found in something new, but in something true, something that has demonstrated its value across time and circumstances. Let me share another principle that's been crucial in my journey, the practice of reframing. This is the art of deliberately choosing a different perspective on your challenges, not denying their reality, but viewing them through a lens that empowers rather than defeats you. Most negative emotions come not from circumstances themselves, but from how we interpret those circumstances. Change the interpretation and you change the emotional impact. For instance, you can view a job loss as a devastating setback or as an opportunity to pursue work more aligned with your purpose. You can see a relationship ending as a failure or as a chapter that taught you valuable lessons about yourself and others. You can interpret a health challenge as a cruel twist of fate or as a wake-up call that leads to a healthier lifestyle. The facts don't change with reframing, but your relationship to those facts changes dramatically. And that shift determines whether your challenges diminish or develop you. I remember counseling a man who had lost a significant business contract that represented about 30% of his company's revenue. He was devastated, viewing it as a catastrophic failure. When I asked him to deliberately reframe the situation, he initially resisted. But gradually he began to see alternative perspectives. Perhaps this was an opportunity to diversify his client base rather than being over-reliant on one customer. Maybe this was pushing him to innovate in ways comfort had prevented. Possibly this was revealing weaknesses in his business model that needed to be addressed. As he practiced reframing, his energy shifted from despair to determination. Within 6 months, he had not only replaced the lost revenue, but had created a more stable business with multiple strong client relationships. Reframing isn't positive thinking in the sense of denial or wishful thinking. It's looking for equally valid but more empowering interpretations of the same reality. I encourage you to practice asking better questions when facing difficulties. What's good about this situation I haven't yet recognized? What would I tell someone I love if they were in my position? How might this challenge be serving my growth or redirecting me toward a better path? What strengths am I developing through this experience that will serve me for years to come? These questions don't change your circumstances, but they can completely transform how you experience and respond to them. Now let me share another principle that's been foundational in my life, the power of financial disciplines, especially during difficult times. Many of life's challenges either originate from or are complicated by money issues. Having sound financial practices provides a buffer that makes all of life's difficulties more manageable. When I was young, a mentor told me, "Jim, until you control your money, you won't control your life." That statement changed my approach to finances forever. I realized that financial discipline wasn't just about dollars and cents, it was about creating freedom and options. My suggestion is to establish simple, consistent financial practices that serve you in any economic climate. Save a percentage of every dollar you earn. I recommend at least 10%. Live below your means, not at or beyond them. Avoid debt that doesn't generate more value than it costs. Invest regularly in assets that appreciate over time. These basic practices create a financial cushion that absorbs some of life's blows. When you have savings, an unexpected expense isn't a crisis, it's merely an inconvenience. When you're not overextended, a reduction in income doesn't threaten your survival, it just requires adjustments. I've counseled many people through financial challenges, and I've observed that their stress levels weren't directly proportional to the size of their problems. They were proportional to the gap between their problems and their preparation. Those who had practiced financial disciplines, even in small ways, weathered storms far better than those who hadn't. If you're currently in financial difficulty, start where you are. Even small steps toward better financial practices will increase your sense of control and reduce your anxiety. Perhaps you can save just 1% of your income to begin with, or find one expense to eliminate, or develop a simple spending plan. Remember, financial freedom doesn't require wealth, it requires wisdom, and that wisdom is available to everyone, regardless of income level or current circumstances. Let me share another principle that's been invaluable to me, the practice of capturing and celebrating progress. When life gets tough, it's easy to focus exclusively on how far you still have to go rather than how far you've already come. This creates a sense of perpetual inadequacy and failure. I found that deliberately tracking and acknowledging progress, even small steps, generates momentum and sustains optimism during challenging times. I recommend keeping a progress journal where you record improvements, learnings, and small victories. Review this regularly to remind yourself that you are moving forward even when it doesn't always feel like it. This practice counteracts our brain's negativity bias, our tendency to give more weight to negative events than positive ones. I worked with a woman who was recovering from a serious injury that had left her temporarily unable to walk. Her rehabilitation process was long and painful, with progress measured in millimeters rather than miles. Frustration and discouragement were her constant companions. I suggested she keep a daily record of even the smallest improvements, a little less pain, a slightly increased range of motion, a moment of laughter despite her circumstances. At first she was skeptical, but as her journal filled with these micro-victories, her perspective shifted dramatically. One day she told me, "I was so focused on not being able to run that I couldn't celebrate learning to stand again." This journal has helped me see that I'm making progress every day, even if it's not at the pace I'd prefer. That's the power of capturing progress. It doesn't change your circumstances, but it changes how you experience them. It replaces "I'm not there yet" with "I'm on my way." Closely related to this is the practice of strategic celebration. Most people wait to celebrate until they reach their final destination. But wise individuals celebrate milestones along the way, creating energy and momentum for the journey ahead. These celebrations need not be elaborate. Perhaps it's a special meal, a small reward, a moment of reflection, or sharing your achievement with someone who cares. The form matters less than the acknowledgement that progress has occurred and is worthy of recognition. Remember, it's not just the major victories that deserve celebration, but the small daily disciplines that make those victories possible. Celebrate showing up when you didn't feel like it. Celebrate choosing growth when comfort was calling. Celebrate maintaining your principles when compromise would have been easier. These celebrations aren't frivolous, they're fuel for the journey ahead. Let me share a final principle that's perhaps the most important of all, the power of vision. Vision is your ability to see beyond your current circumstances to what could be and should be. It's the capacity to hold a clear picture of your desired future, even when your present reality contradicts it. I believe that the quality of your vision determines the quality of your life. Those with clear, compelling visions naturally maintain more positive perspectives during difficult times because they see current challenges within the context of a larger story. I often ask people, what do you want your life to look like 3 years from now? What kind of person do you want to become? What contribution do you want to make? What skills do you want to develop? Surprisingly, many people have never seriously considered these questions. They're so consumed with daily urgencies that they've never defined their important futures. But when you have clear answers to these questions, everything changes. Current difficulties become chapters in your story rather than the story itself. Obstacles become opportunities for development rather than reasons for despair. Delays become times of preparation rather than periods of punishment. I encourage you to develop what I call a personal vision statement, a clear, written description of the life you're working to create. This isn't a list of goals, though goals will emerge from it. It's a vivid picture of your desired future that engages both your mind and your emotions. Spend time with this vision daily. Read it, visualize it, connect with it emotionally. Let it pull you forward when circumstances are pushing you back. I remember working with a young entrepreneur whose first business had failed spectacularly. He had lost not only his investment, but also the investments of friends and family who had believed in him. The financial and emotional toll was devastating. When I asked about his vision for the future, he admitted he didn't have one. He was so consumed with his present failure that he couldn't imagine future success. So we started there, creating a detailed vision of the business and life he wanted to build. As this vision took shape, I watched his posture change. His energy returned, his creativity reawakened. The failure hadn't disappeared, but it had been recontextualized. It was no longer the end of his story, but a painful and instructive chapter in a larger narrative. Within 2 years, he had started a new venture that eventually surpassed anything he had imagined for his first business. When I asked what had made the difference, he said, "The first time I was just trying to make money. The second time I was pursuing a vision that pulled me through the inevitable difficulties." That's the power of vision during tough times. It doesn't remove the obstacles, but it provides a compelling reason to overcome them. It doesn't eliminate the pain, but it gives it purpose. It doesn't shorten the journey, but it makes it meaningful. Let me leave you with this thought. Life is difficult for everyone at various times. That's not a pessimistic statement, it's a realistic one. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. Good people have problems. Successful people face setbacks. But while difficulty is universal, how we respond to it is individual. Some people are destroyed by the same difficulties that develop others. Some become bitter from the same experiences that make others better. Some give up from the same challenges that cause others to grow up. The difference isn't in the nature or intensity of the difficulties. The difference is in the principles and practices that guide our response to those difficulties. I've shared several of these principles with you today, focusing on personal growth rather than circumstances, guarding your mind, practicing gratitude, choosing your words carefully, being intentional about your associations, setting goals even in difficult seasons, adding value to others, maintaining physical well-being, practicing strategic solitude, mastering fundamentals, reframing challenges, establishing financial disciplines, capturing and celebrating progress, and developing a compelling vision. These aren't just nice ideas. They're tested principles that have guided countless individuals through their own valleys to their own mountaintops. They've certainly transformed my life, and I believe they can transform yours as well. Remember, it's not the blowing of the wind, but the setting of your sails that determines your destination. You can't control all your circumstances, but you can control your response to them. You can't avoid all difficulties, but you can develop yourself to meet them with courage, wisdom, and even optimism. The challenges you face today are developing capacities within you that you'll need for the future you desire. They're not random or meaningless. They're part of your development, your story, your journey toward becoming the person you were created to be. So embrace them, learn from them, grow through them. Let them reveal your weaknesses so you can transform them into strengths. Let them expose your fears so you can develop your courage. Let them highlight your limitations so you can expand your capabilities. Life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. Every experience, especially the difficult ones, contains seeds of opportunity and growth. Your job isn't to wish for fewer problems, but to develop more capacity, more wisdom, more resilience, more creativity, more determination. As you leave here today, I challenge you to make a fundamental decision, a decision about how you'll respond to life's inevitable difficulties. Will you be a victim of circumstances or a creator of possibilities? Will you focus on what you can't control or what you can? Will you let challenges diminish you or develop you? The quality of your life isn't determined by the absence of problems, but by your response to them. Choose today to respond with growth rather than complaint, with determination rather than despair, with hope rather than resignation. Choose to become the kind of person who grows stronger through adversity rather than weaker, more resourceful through challenges rather than more limited, more determined through obstacles rather than more discouraged. This choice, this fundamental decision about your response to difficulty, will shape your destiny more than any external circumstance ever could. It's the difference between a life of frustration and a life of fulfillment, between merely existing and truly living. Remember, the same wind blows on us all. It's not the wind, but the set of your sail that determines your direction. Set your sail today toward growth, contribution, and possibility, regardless of which way the wind is blowing. Thank you for your time and attention. It's been an honor to share these principles with you. I believe in your capacity to not just weather life's storms, but to harness their power to propel you toward your highest aspirations. After all, it's not just about staying positive when life gets tough. It's about becoming extraordinary because life is tough. The challenges that could defeat you are the very opportunities that can define you if you respond to them with wisdom, courage, and an unwavering commitment to growth. The choice is yours. Choose well.